Great. So welcome everyone. Welcome to this.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hello everyone. Welcome to this SBIR info session focused on NIH. My name is Jacques Shirazi. I'm director of the Basement and Entrepreneurship Center, and I work for the Office of Innovation and Commercialization. I will also have my other colleagues introduce themselves from University of San Diego. Benton, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, thanks. Thanks, Jacques. Good to see everyone. Big day in the SBIR world, we hope. I'm Benton Moore. I'm the director of the Brink SBDC, Small Business Development Center at University of San Diego. We're an innovation hub, and we're proud to work with UC San Diego and Jacques' team and showcase the collaboration and innovation that exists in our special place called San Diego. So let's turn it over to Martin.
Hi, I'm Martin Gleason. I'm one of the advisors at the Brink, specializing in life sciences and drug development. And I have, through my career, written a number of SBIR grant proposals, which have been very useful in supporting progress in startup organizations. And I'm here just to add support and respond to questions as is. Thanks.
So I'll add that Matt Hutton, who runs our SBIR grant writing workshops at the Brink, is out today, but he's recorded his bits, and we'll play that video in just a minute. Also like to introduce Robert Frembo from what is it?
Brainstorm Therapeutics.
Brainstorm. For some reason, I had brain scan in my brain. Brainstorm Therapeutics, who we know and has had great success in the space. So we'll give you some tactics and frontline news. All right.
Great.
Stephen,
you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Or we can queue up.
Well, we'll get started. So to make sure we have time to focus on the slides. So we're excited to we've been doing this partnership with University of San Diego for some time. We're hosting on a quarterly basis SBIR info session. So we have actually SBIR info session that are generally speaking about SBIR in the application process. This is either done in person or online, and that's once a quarter. And in between these sessions, we also have more specialized topic like today, where we're focusing on NIH. That will be the focus of today's discussion, and also potentially some questions you may have about the process, given the changes that we have currently in the federal government. So as I mentioned before, I'm the director of the Basement and Entrepreneurship Center. I work for the Office of Innovation and Commercialization. We're basically responsible for all commercializations and translation of discovery from research into invention disclosure and then ultimately into license. And from there, we will help assist these professors, researchers, and so on in creating companies, which we have done over the years. University is actually a really good leader in that group of process of translating innovation from research into companies. We're one of the leading ones in the UC region in terms of number of disclosure that we have and number of licensing agreements. It's something that my office really help anyone on campus who want to do that. And then we have a whole group of people that will help you go from the process of commercialization and scaling your company, which today is focused mostly around the funding aspect. The campus itself has a ton of interesting resources that you can take advantage of. This will be shared with you as part of the folks that attend the workshop. But we have a number of proof of concept funding. One of them that I want to point out is our AIM program, Accelerating Innovation to Market. This is a very successful program. But we also have a ton of other incubator space. In the building that I'm in, we have one called the Horizon Accelerator, which is designed to help scale companies from lab to market. We also have a ton of resources that are accessible to anyone to the campus. These are different toolkits that we've created to help you navigate the process. It also includes mentorship classes and other resources that we have there. We have a couple of events. If any of you are interested to attend, we have one coming up this week, focusing on going from founder to leader, right? How do you actually scale your company in terms of a team? And then the last workshop that we have is focused on financing your business. This is open to anyone on campus to attend. These are actually at the DIB building. We also have a great topic in a week from today, focusing on autism. We have one of our mentors who's releasing his book, focusing on innovation in the neurodivergent market, if you will, and he's going to be talking about the potential there for growth in terms of entrepreneurship. And the last one I will leave you in is that we're hosting a company called a platform called MCube, who is really helping using AI power to scale prototyping and minimal viable product in a very fast way. And we're going to have an amazing discussion this Thursday in person. It's also online as well. If you're interested to learn about this platform, how you could use it for your project. So that's all I had. I'll turn it to my colleague Benton to kind of talk about the resources that you have access to the Brink.
Thanks, Jacques. Let me see if we can. All right. Can you see this okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So like USD at the Brink has lots of upcoming programming and some that are really important for you. We have a new SBIR grant writing workshop coming up next month. We have ongoing entrepreneurship programs and innovation trainings. We have an event later today about scaling SaaS and building your sales pipelines by Jerice O'Malley. And then we have investor readiness tomorrow with Dr. Ma. And then the Lean Essentials Sprint, which is an 8-week-long cohort, is ongoing. And then we have a funding jam. Everyone is having trouble raising those Series A's right now. So we have a working group to come up with alternative strategies for raising funds. So lots going on at the Brink. We'll drop in the registration for the next SBIR grant writing workshop. And we should turn it over to Stephen and Matt to load the video.
All right, let me know if you can hear this video.
Okay, welcome. My name is Matt Hutton. I'm going to be helping out with the
Oh.
specifically, and then kind of a status update on where we are now with the SBIRs. Share my screen really quickly to get to my slides. Okay, so I'll go ahead and jump in. A little bit of history on the SBIR program. The SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research, and this is a program that was established by Congress in 1982. And basically, what it did was require that executive branch agencies that do extramural research, meaning outside of their funded outside of their agency, had to allocate a certain portion of their research funding toward small businesses that were actively doing R&D in their space. Okay, there's 11 agencies. They have a common project format among them and a common goal, which is to fund a diverse portfolio of startups and small businesses across technology areas, markets, to stimulate technological innovation, federal R&D needs, and increase commercialization to transition R&D into impact. Okay, so that's a mouthful, but I want to zero in on a couple things because I think it's really instructive. So first of all, diverse. What they mean when they say diverse is that the purpose of the SBIR program is to get new businesses into the innovation economy in all these different technological domains. So they're looking for diversity of the businesses themselves. The founders, they want to see different companies in different geographies, coming from different backgrounds. They also want different technical approaches. Okay, so it's trying to create some kind of churn and activity in this R&D space and to allocate some of that funding towards small businesses. Small business is a requirement to participate in the program. Again, that means you have to be small. The definition is, well, it can be defined a few different ways, but in general, think like garage scale up to maybe about 100 employees with up to millions of dollars of revenue. Can be considered a small business. Okay, but this is oriented entirely towards small businesses. They must be for-profit businesses, and that is the target recipient of the SBIR funds. I get a lot of questions from businesses about whether or not an individual founder can win an SBIR. Yes, they can. They often do. So the program really does attempt to cater to anybody from like garage scale individual up into some larger small businesses. Okay, technological innovation. What they mean when they say technological innovation is that something new needs to be happening here. Okay, so this is research and development. It is by nature new, novel, high risk. That definition can vary quite significantly from agency to agency. Okay, so some agencies, novel and innovative can just mean a product that doesn't exist in the market yet. In others, it's more foundational science, more basic research type stuff where you're really truly breaking new ground. Most of them are going to kind of focus somewhere in the middle, and in most cases, new application of an existing technology can qualify. But again, working with these different agencies, you're kind of zeroing in on what exactly their culture and attitude is toward the definition of the clinician. Okay, next, federal R&D needs. So I highlighted this because a lot of first-time applicants approach the SBIR programs without a real appreciation of the need to specifically address issues that have been highlighted by the agency. So it is not the case that you can simply come up with something innovative, new, and different, and then pitch it to the SBIR programs and get an award for it. You need to propose it in response to a need that they have identified through their solicitation process. So each of these agencies will identify critical areas of technological need in their sort of technical domain. This is usually broken down into topics. So you will apply to a specific topic and say, here's how my new technology, my small business is going to address this technological gap. So the trick with the SBIR is kind of marrying up.
I'll try and fix the audio real quick. It seems like there's a problem with it real fast. One sec.
Your small business's goals, your research and development goals with what the government has solicited, and making a strong case there. Okay, next, commercialization. So this is kind of the entire reason that this program exists. It is different from traditional academic research in that it seeks to commercialize all these new technologies. So the reason that this money is directed towards small businesses is they want you to commercialize. They would like to invest some seed money and then have you kind of go on and develop a market out of it. That is a success for the SBIR programs. For that reason, it has much stronger IP protections than traditional academic research. It is non-dilutive funding. Okay, so this really is oriented toward getting the small business up and going and then having them go it on their own. Okay, and then lastly, to transition R&D into impact. So many of these agencies are going to want to hear what is the economic or the other impact that this new technology is going to have. So, under the umbrella of the National Institutes of Health, obviously that's going to be a lot of health impacts. They often want to hear, like, what is going to be the downstream effect of this? Okay, is it going to be reduced missed school days for children because you're resolving some sort of disease issue? Is it going to be, more beneficial economic activity because people are missing fewer days of work? So those sorts of second order things are also very important. What impact is this going to have more broadly on the U.S. economy? Okay, so I mentioned about the common project format. Again, 3 phases. So you apply at each of these stages and then can win an award. Phase 1 is a concept phase, proof of concept. So in a phase 1, you usually are getting 6 to 12 months to show the technical merit of what you're doing or the scientific merit of what you're doing. So phase 1 is typically, a really kind of punchy, compact set of tasks or experiments in which you're demonstrating this is a promising avenue and the agency should consider investing more in it. These can range from a couple $100,000, well, maybe on the very small agencies, $100,000 up to closer to over 300 for different agencies for the phase 1 projects. Okay, and again, short timeline. Your actual experimental kind of phase is just a matter of months. You've got to also build in some time for final reporting and stuff like that toward the end of it. Okay, so then if you're successful in phase 1, you can apply and advance potentially to phase 2. Phase 2 is a development phase, usually 1 to 2 years, and usually $750,000 to a couple $1 million for the phase 2 projects. Again, depending on which agency you're working at, you can be at kind of a different level of the technological maturity spectrum. But in some way, shape, or form, you are kind of marching toward commercialization in phase 2. You're getting closer to it, not necessarily commercializing, but getting closer to that goal. Okay, and then phase 3 is infrequently awarded. What phase 3 is it is a commercialization award that enables the agency to draw money from a different part of their agency, a different pot of money, but to fund you still under the SBIR programs. And the purpose of doing that is to have you continue on with the non-dilutive funding and the very strong IP protections. So it's just a way to get more money. It is not from the funds that are earmarked by Congress for the SBIR programs. It is the agency saying this is a really kind of promising avenue. We want to continue funding this company and protecting them while they develop their business. Okay, so I'll just go over this briefly because I can send the slides and there's no need to kind of belabor it. These are the different agencies that offer SBIRs. I've got here their total agency budget, the phase 1 funding levels, phase 2 funding levels, whether they offer contracts or grants. The difference is that a contract has somewhat stronger endpoints or more strict endpoints. So in a contract, you are delivering something specific. It could be a product at the end of the SBIR project, whereas a grant is going to be a little bit more of the familiar kind of like academic research where it could lead to a publication, conference presentation, not necessarily something very well defined in terms of the output. Some kind of variation among each of those categories. But the reason I highlight this is HHS, which is the parent agency of the National Institutes of Health. So the National Institutes of Health are within Health and Human Services. The HHS awards both grants and contracts. Okay, and NIH will do mostly grants, but an appreciable number of contracts as well. So you have kind of two categories of projects that NIH will be offering. Okay, and NIH traditionally has 3 cycles a year or 3 due dates, and then they have some out of the traditional kind of due dates, some freestanding SBIR opportunities as well. These are a few years old. I think we all are probably aware that there has been some changes in government staffing levels and government funding levels within the executive branch. So look for these potentially to change when the reauthorization takes place and the SBIRs come back in line. Some of the total budget will likely be different. The phase 1 and phase 2 funding amounts will probably also be different as well. Okay, getting to the current status of the SBIR program. So the SBIRs, all of them, lapsed in September 2025. That happened with the government shutdown at that point. Some of the functions of the government were refunded. As we all know, the SBIR has not been one of those. There was debate about how the SBIR would be reauthorized and renewed. There's broad bipartisan support, overwhelming bipartisan support for the SBIR programs in general. Just the specific contours of funding priorities and exactly what the program will look like have been debated. Now, that being said, a reauthorization bill did pass both the House and Senate last month. Okay, so at mid-month, the Senate passed it. The changes in the reauthorization, a few things. So first of all, the addition of strategic breakthrough awards. So there are now awards up to, I believe, $30 million in the later phases of the SBIR program for select projects. That won't be, I think, a common occurrence. But basically, this is a mechanism by which the agency can provide a much, much higher level of funding to very promising SBIR projects. Those will also require match funding, meaning that these projects will be far enough along, showing enough promise that traditional funding channels, such as incumbent companies or interests in these industries, will provide. I think the requirement is about half the funding. I think it's about 1-to-1. Okay, so these will be tens of millions of dollars of funding for some of these projects. Okay, and then limits on the number of applications. So what does that mean? It's going to be defined by each of the individual agencies as far as I understand it, but they do need to limit either the number of applications that a company can submit per year, the number of applications they can submit to a specific solicitation or topic, or lifetime awards. Actually, I think they struck the lifetime award limitation in the last version. So just a correction on that. But this again is going to be at the discretion of each of the agencies. They do need to limit the number of awards, the number of applications that they're receiving in some way. And then also expect more strict foreign due diligence. A lot of the SBIR programs have permitted some foreign involvement, some more than others. But there are new requirements on foreign involvement coming down the pipeline. I don't know exactly what that looks like yet. This was sent to the president's desk a little over a week ago. Widely expected to be signed since it passed overwhelmingly in the House and Senate. However, it has not been signed yet. So actually on April 13th, so today, this has to be either signed or vetoed, or it will become the law. The agencies, including NIH, have telegraphed that they're going to be ready to go. They have been doing SBIRs for a long time. And so expect to start to see solicitations come out pretty quickly. They're aware of the changes required in the new bill. They have been working on getting this ready, as I understand it. Okay, so I want to focus in on the NIH programs real quickly here as we kind of wrap it up. And I'm going to just give you a couple of resources to get started. And I'll share my screen here quick. I've got some links here. So the first is the NIH SBIR page. Let me fix my screen share. Okay. Okay, there we go. So this is the NIH SBIR page. Okay, and this will provide you an overview of what applications are live, as well as some background on the program. So do read through this. Again, everything will be due most likely when this is reauthorized on September 5th, January 5th, April 5th. That has been very consistent for many years. So 3 kind of cycles per year. And what happens is they'll release an omnibus solicitation, and then there will be topics to which you can apply at any of those due dates for the year. There is some change in the topics year to year. A lot of them will stay kind of the same as well, so kind of slow changes throughout the agency on the actual topics. Why is this called omnibus? It's because this is the one solicitation that includes all of the HHS agencies. It includes the Centers for Disease Control, the Food and Drug Administration, and the National Institutes of Health. They're all going to be in this. And there obviously is no live solicitation right now. So I'm going to give you an example of an old one. Okay. And excuse me, I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, so this is what the previous omnibus looks like. It's a long PDF. This is 60 pages. It's going to highlight, again, the due dates, the agencies that are participating. And then this is all going to be organized by the different offices within these agencies. So NIH includes the National Institute on Aging, the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, and you can click on any one of these and you'll reach the section that describes the program within that office. So these generally are going to include links to important resources like the webpage for that office, some background on how they run their SBIR program out of this office, and then program contacts, whether they're doing clinical trials or non-clinical trials. Okay, so that's a very important distinction. Don't apply with a clinical trial to the non-clinical trial solicitation. Okay, but again, these are comments on all the different kind of subgroups within this agency. The National Institute on Aging, they used to have the topics directly in this. And this administration has moved it into a separate topic document, which no, that's the wrong one. But expect to see the new topics come out, and they will each be described. Usually at NIH, they're fairly specific what they're looking for. It could be as few as just like 2 or 3 topics for any of these branches of the NIH, up to a number of them. Now, secondly, the other category of the solicitations that they have is the specific opportunities. Okay, again, there are going to be none here for obvious reasons, but specific opportunities do not fit into the omnibus solicitation. They may be kind of time-bound opportunities that the agency expects to fund at a specific level for a specific duration, or they may be one-time opportunities, and they can have different, funding levels. They're just kind of like one-off or special cases, so they don't go in the omnibus. But it is important to look at those too and see if there's anything that may be applicable to you there when you're reviewing these. Okay, now I'm going to share a couple other resources that I've got here, and this is really just to get started. Where do you go? What do you do? I have instructions in here to look at grants.gov and sam.gov. Grants.gov is a website through which you'll actually create your application, load all the documents into it. And sam.gov is the system for award management, where you can load your company details and actually kind of facilitate the exchange of documents and stuff that's going to be important to getting your application done. Okay, but then I wanted to show you some background on how to sort of get started here. Let me just make sure I'm sharing. Okay, so this is SBIR.gov. This is a website that is developed by the Small Business Association. So it's not an SBIR grant-making agency. It just collects information from the SBIR programs throughout the government. This is their award data archive. Okay, so basically what this is a database of all the SBIR awards that have been conducted over the last, I think, like 20, 25 years or something like that. Now, why am I pointing this out? Because it's really important if you're thinking about submitting an application to look at what the agency has funded before, okay? And you can look by agency, by sub-branch of an agency. Was it phase 1, phase 2? What year was it funded? The geography of where it was funded, but along with keyword, okay? So, I mean, just for an example, look for AI or artificial intelligence, and it's going to pull up a bunch of different SBIR projects that were done on that. Now, when you click into one, it's not going to have a whole lot of information about the project. It will just have kind of a high-level overview. So what year was this granted? What was the funding amount? Which agency? And then the abstract. Okay, so the abstract that each applicant produces for public consumption will be available here. Do spend some time looking over this. Learn the vocabulary that the agency uses or understands when they're thinking about this topic that you're developing new technology in. Okay, so that can really kind of give you a leg up. To understand how they're thinking about the issue, and again, the vocabulary that they're using around it. Okay, the next one is NIH Reporter. And this is also a database of funding activity. This is at reporter.nih.gov. This includes SBIRs as well as other funding activity. So know that going into it, but you can look in many different ways, by state, by year, by topic. So again, spend some time familiarizing yourself there. Now, the last thing I want to point out is that if you're interested in NIH, there are likely other agencies that will be of interest to you, namely the Department of Defense, and the National Science Foundation. And I've just got links here, so I just really quickly want to show you. This is the Department of Defense's SBIR webpage. You can look at the topics by clicking on this green button and then click on either the solicitation or the topic document. Okay, and these are the topics that they've got out now for pre-release. So I guess expecting funding to come soon. Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up again is the Department of Defense does fund a lot of health-related technologies. And I also have linked in here the Defense Health Agency's own webpage on its SBIR programs. Okay, so all these different topics, mental health hub, environmental exposures, healthcare technology. Okay, so the appreciable amount of funding activity taking place within the Department of Defense on health-related topics within the SBIR program. And then last one is going to be the NSF, or National Science Foundation. The Science Foundation, or National Science Foundation, funds a lot of health-related SBIRs. Okay, and you can click on what we fund in this web page, and they've got everything laid out confusingly in a grid pattern. But take a look around this: digital health, biomedical technologies, a number of their different pharmaceutical, a number of their different different topics kind of deal with health. Click on medical devices here, and then you'll see a number of subtopics. Okay, and then when you're getting ready to apply, just kind of parting words, look through all of the topics, look through the previous funding activity from the agency, but then also reach out to these agencies. There are specific rules permitting when you can reach out, what you can ask, whether or not that's going to be made available for public consumption. The security-focused agencies like the Department of Defense, they have more strict rules about questions you can ask and when you can have contact with the agency people. But the NIH, I have found to be very open in the past. If you reach out to the contacts and just present yourself as a prospective applicant, try to get them on the phone maybe, and say, hey, I'm looking at this solicitation. This is what my business is working on. I'm interested in doing an SBIR. I would be, broadly doing XYZ experiment. This is the technology I'm trying to develop. They're not going to give you a yay or nay, but they will kind of help you understand whether you're working on something that's appropriate for funding at their agencies. If not, they may help try to reorient you toward another grant-making agency that will be. And that can be enormously helpful. NSF, they also offer that sort of support. Okay. All right. So that's it. I'm going to close out here and just put my email address. And please do reach out if you have any questions. You can reach out through Jonathan or any of the staff at the Brink and get in touch with me. We can support companies that are working on preparing SBIR applications, and look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Virtual Matt. Timely information, everyone there. We have only a little bit of time, so let's go quickly to our next batch of programming. I will say this about the news. It's nearly 5 o'clock on the East Coast, where Washington, D.C. is located, and at this moment, we don't have any updates on the final documents being signed or funded, so they are scheduled to become law unless vetoed in the next few minutes. Point is, stay ready. We are told this funding is going to be released and the budget will last for 5 years. So as Pele once said, be where the ball is going to be, not where it is. So stay ready. And I think Wayne Gretzky might have borrowed that for where the puck is going to be. Either way, puck, ball, grants, keep your eye on where it's going to be. So, Robert, let's talk about some good stuff. Let's talk about some success stories that you've had with SBIR.
I was going to begin by using the Clint Eastwood, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll jump to the good.
Well, tell us about the good.
Yeah, so, I formed Brainstorm in March of 2023, and we applied for and received an NSF Phase 1 SBIR grant. I am a strong advocate for NSF because it actually is a different process. So it's still an involved application, but really it's the program officer who primarily makes the decision about funding. So the program officer can decide whether he likes the program, likes the grant, and he then chooses the advisors that he wants to review it. And then he ultimately makes the decision about whether it's going to be funded or not. And so I think the NSF is a really important approach for this. They first require a project pitch. And so you can go online to nsf.gov and find out about the project pitch. But basically, it's a page or two that covers the science, the commercial prospect, and then the program officer reviews that and says, yes, this looks really interesting. Please go ahead and submit a full grant proposal, which again is typically about a 5-page single-spaced grant application. Again, with NSF, the science is important, but the commercial prospect is probably as important as the innovation of the science itself. So our NSF grant was really around developing a brain organoid model for Parkinson's disease, with the idea of being able to develop the first disease-modifying therapies for Parkinson's disease, which has a $1 billion potential market opportunity. And so I think that's really what led to our success with NSF. More recently, we were just recently awarded a direct to phase 2 grant, which Matt didn't mention. There are a couple of other possibilities through the SBIR program, and there's the fast track SBIRs, there's the direct to phase 2 SBIRs, and then there are the traditional phase 1 SBIRs. So we submitted a direct to phase 2 SBIR for work we're doing now on developing a novel assay for measuring drugs that can prevent Alzheimer's disease. And so in a direct to phase 2 grant, we basically used our progress we've made over the last year and a half as sort of the phase 1 equivalent. So in the grant, we provided preliminary data, which is essentially the phase 1 equivalent, and then we applied for the phase 2 directly. And the phase 2, direct to phase 2 grant was a $2.5 million grant for 2 years. So it's a significant amount of funding. And again, it's largely directed towards the commercial prospect of, does the company have a long-term potential to be successful? And does the program have the potential to lead to meaningful commercial, in our case, new medicines for treating Alzheimer's disease? And so those are sort of the two success stories we've had at Brainstorm Therapeutics. And so for both NSF grant and the direct to phase 2 grant, it's really important to have a sufficient body of preliminary data that you can submit that shows a high likelihood of success of being able to accomplish your specific aims. And so it's important to consider the preliminary data that you have. It's also important to get letters of support from key leaders of the field that can write about the importance of your work and how it fits into the larger societal need and the scientific innovation. So we've been able to incorporate, with each of our grants, several up to 3 or 4 letters that come from leaders in the field that speak to our platform and also to our success and our scientific credibility, and then the long-term potential of the work that we're doing. So be sure to include letters of support along with really promising sort of early data in the grant. And so one of the things I was not aware of when I first started applying for these grants is actually the process by which they're evaluated. And so there's actually it's called the Center for Scientific Review, which is put together by the NIH. And this Center for Scientific Review has almost 50 different study sections that will then evaluate the individual grants that are submitted. And so it's really important, in retrospect, I found out it's really important to go through and look at all the 50 different study sections and find a study section that has the expertise that's most relevant to the work you're submitting. In our case, it ended up being what's called NV16 for our SBIR grant for our work on epilepsy disorders. And so that study section had a group of scientists that had expertise in animal models for epilepsy and also academic leaders in the area. And so it's really valuable to go in to the Center for Scientific Review, look through the 50 and odd study section and find the best ones that represent the work that you're doing. You can actually go in and look at the composition of the study section from the previous several rounds. They list all the reviewers in the previous rounds. So it's helpful, again, to find out who might be on the study section that might have special expertise in your specific area of interest. But there's a flip side also. There may be people there that might not have the right background and experience to be able to review your work. And so when you submit the grant, you're allowed to recommend study sections that have the proper background, and you also can recommend killing study sections that might have reasons that might not be advantageous to your specific work. And I'll let you draw the unwritten connections there. And so
Yeah, that's good tactical advice. And I'm glad you brought up NSF. I work with the I-Corps program, and at NSF, we talk about bringing early stage innovations to commercialization. And I want to say that all SBIR grants, all government grants, regardless of the department, are essentially innovation investments by the government into startups. So as an applicant, your job is to show risk mitigation and likelihood of success. Even though it's government money, they do want it to be successful. So all of the tactics and inside tricks that Robert is talking about lead to that. So you want to de-risk your application and show that you have a high success rate or a high likelihood of success. Robert, will you talk a little bit about how long the application processes took you for phase 1 and phase 2?
Yeah, so first let me say that it's also very important at the outset. I think Matt mentioned this, but it's really valuable to get in touch with the program officer, either at NSF or at NINDS in our case, or NCATS. Identify the program officer, and ideally you'll have put together your specific aims page, your sort of one-page specific aims, which covers why it's an important program, what the actual goals are, and send a specific aims page ahead of time so you can talk to the program officer and ask, is this an appropriate application to submit to your institute? And get guidance from them and get their buy-in that they want you to submit it. We did that with one of our grants. We went to NCATS first, National Center for and the NCATS told us, well, this grant really is more appropriate for NINDS. And so we went to NINDS and submitted there. And so it's helpful to get that feedback from the program officers. And so the actual grant submission process, for me, the first time I submitted a grant, it took about a month. And it was a month of, spending about half a day per day over the course of a month to put together the grant. And that was largely the actual research plan. And it turns out it's as challenging to do the bureaucratic work as it is to do the actual research plan. In terms of entering in, you have to put in your bio sketches, you have to get your letters of reference from your supports individuals. You need to have all the background information. As was mentioned, you have to have your SAM and your research.gov stuff all in place. So the background work actually can take as much as writing the grant itself. And it's better to start early, getting all of the SAM and research.gov stuff all set up ahead of time, because that actually can be some tough hoops to jump through. And it's not straightforward, unfortunately, at least in my experience. So I think probably also it's really important to identify the proper individuals to have letters of support from. Again, start doing that, more than a month ahead of time, because you don't want to be submitting that at the very last minute. And the people that you choose to write letters can also hopefully be experienced people that already have gotten these kind of grants before, and they might be able to, help you provide guidance and feedback around early drafts of your grant.
Good stuff. Yeah, and we will have an upcoming SBIR writing workshop. It's a 4-week program, usually on Mondays around 4 o'clock for 1 hour or 1 hour and a half, all on Zoom. And this is a great place to.
Yeah, I did that program, and I strongly recommend it as a valuable resource for sure.
Yes, Robert is the success story, the space monkey that came home alive. So good job.
They're also we'll throw it out there that sometimes people are incredibly busy doing a million different things, and they're actually there's the potential to consider using one of the support services that can help with the grant writing process, that can actually provide especially help with the bureaucracy work. So there are 3 companies that I would consider looking into, at least to get some feedback on. One of them is called Eva Garland. So Eva Garland is worthwhile to think about. There's a group called FreeMind, and FreeMind actually is quite interesting because in addition to doing sort of grant writing guidance and support, they're also a VC company. And so one of my colleagues in a company called Vincere in Boston ended up getting I guess it was a SBIR grant from NINDS, working with FreeMind, and then FreeMind actually ended up being their VC that gave them their seed funding. And so FreeMind, Eva Garland, and another group called Robert Wegner are companies that are worth looking into if you want to get some support, for your first time submission process.
Good stuff. My apologies, I have to jump to another meeting, but Martin Gleason, who runs so much of our biotech and SBIR program, is here. If you have any questions while we wrap up, Robert and Martin are here for you.
Great. Thanks very much, Ben.
Can I?
So
Matt.
we're about ready to kind of start wrapping up, but if anyone has any
Matt's
specific
here.
questions.
Matt's here as well, so we have
great.
we have full team now.
Thanks, Benton.
Gentlemen,
I have a
thank
quick
you.
question. So I'm a UCSD faculty, and one of the problems with SBIR is you have to be primarily employed by the small business entity, and therefore, like the STTR might be a good route, but UCSD will not let you represent your small business entity and the university. So just curious if there's any UCSD representatives on to guide that process.
So we can check with Jacques on that because that's a UCSD specific question. And I'll take that question to Jacques to see if there's support for you, because I know that the project that you're pushing forward and wanting to promote is a very valuable contribution. And I'd certainly like to see that does get supported.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. And
So I will follow up with that. Yeah. Okay, a number of questions about UCSD support with respect to that. So what we'll do is we will post that as a response on the program. Matt, do you have any insights into that? You need to unmute, Matt.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Apologies. Yeah, a couple things. So I don't know if this fully resolves the issue, but there are a couple of agencies who will actually let the leader of the research institute portion be the prime, even though it's an SBIR in certain cases. I think I've seen NIH do that before, and also NSF, but it doesn't necessarily buy you out of the issue of wearing both hats. A lot of institutions will, as long as you're, making assurances that even though you're involved with the company, you're representing only the school or vice versa within the SBIR or the STTR project. And there's a form for that. I think it's usually like a U800 or U100 or something like that, that a lot of universities use, but I can't comment specifically on UCSD.
Okay. So with that, I think we're going to wind this up now. I would like to say that a tremendous amount of the functions that you have to perform in putting together an SBIR proposal becomes very useful in terms of putting together a pitch deck for independent funding, and all of the functionalities associated with that will be incorporated as part of your grant proposal. I see one additional question here. When do you recommend submitting brief to be track? So, Robert, you mentioned that you put the aims together and sounded out the program director with respect to that. And I suspect that that's the question that's being asked here in terms of putting a brief together for the track. How far in advance was that?
It was about a month in advance.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I strongly recommend it because we had NCAT say no. And I was totally convinced it was an NCATS grant. They said, no, not really. Go to NINDS. And so it's important to take advantage of the program officers, and they're very helpful, especially when you're having to do resubmissions. So, we submitted a grant and it was not discussed. And the program officer had given us a strong recommendation to submit it. And so when I went back to them and talked to them afterwards, as we drafted our resubmission grant, she was very helpful in helping us make sure we cover the right topics in the resubmission. And so you want to build, it's like building a relationship, right, with investors. You want to build a relationship with the program officers that's going to be something that stands over time.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we'll wind things up, and in the chat you can see that we have a number of links to be able to support follow-up questions, and I encourage you to pursue that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.